Hello everyone, welcome to Arduino Made Easy Part 2. In this video, we'll be looking at digital inputs, serial prints, and if statements, and how we can use them all together to control an LED from an input pull-up, which means just an input, so we can control physically how we can turn on the LED. For this tutorial, we'll need one Arduino, one breadboard, one LED, and 3 jumper cables.
So let's jump straight into the code. Well, first you start your Arduino IDE, and like I said last time, your void setup loop is run only once, and your void loops keep running again and again. The setup loop is when you initialize your pins and your variables. Well, last time what I did was I initialized, I said pin mode 9 and output, right? Now this is great, but then every time you have to refer to the pin, you need to mention pin number, so you have to mention pin 9. Well, this is where variables come in. I'll do more detailed video about variables, but let's just say if you have an integer is a type of variable that can be a number. So let's say we name it LED, right? Small letters, so I don't have to press caps lock all the time. So LED is equal to 9. Now what happens is everywhere I call LED in my whole program, it will actually read the value 9. So I don't actually have to remember the value. All I have to remember is what it is. So it makes it a bit easier. So LED output. And we can obviously test this as well, because now if I go digital Y LED high and delay, say 500. I'm just rushing through this because you guys already know this, at least should know this from the last video, if you watch it of course. And low, then delay 500. And we'll just quickly, while it's help here, always remember the long pin is positive. So long pin is what goes to your MCU pin output, and the short one goes to ground. So I'm going to connect this to ground here. Short pin goes to ground, and this pin will go to 9. I haven't plugged in my MCU yet, but actually I'll plug it first because it's still probably running the program from last time, so you see go on. So see the MCU has power. I'm going to flash the code. See, mistake, rookie mistake, there's 2 mistakes there. High should be in capital always. And I'm going to semicolon. All your lines have to end by semicolons, by the way. So see flash, and now I didn't connect the board properly because I'm connected to a Mega. But what's my board? My board's an Uno. So this is why I have to connect to this one. So now it says connected. I flash it. And there we go. The board has been flashed. And now if I connect this pin to ground, you connect this to pin 9. As you can see, it goes on and off. So that's just proof of concept that the variable works. Hope you guys can see this properly. Pull it back. Yeah. So let's not spend too much time on this. What I really want to bring your attention to is there's something called serial. And in the setup group, we want to initialize it, and the way we initialize it is serial begin, and we set a rate, a baud rate at which the communication happens. So serial is a communication protocol. It allows you to communicate. In this case, we'll communicate to our serial monitor, which is embedded in the Arduino IDE. It will just show us what we choose to be shown from the MCU. For instance, right now I've initialized serial begin. As usual, it's always very important to comment. So begin serial comms at baud rate 1600. You should like high low. We're gonna get rid of all these for a bit. So now what we want to do is, if I write serial.print ln, remember it has to be the same syntax, so S has to be capital and everything else has to be small letters. print ln means new line. So, and you have to open your inverted commas, double inverted commas, and this is why you type something. So let's say I type hello. I would type hello where, but it's cliched, so just type hello. And I'm going to add a delay. Because remember how we said the void loop keeps looping itself? So this will keep consistently printing. So add a delay of, let's say, 500. So 500 milliseconds, we should at least print hello. And you see the LED will stop blinking because we don't want the digital writing it high. Now, how do I see it now? Where do I see it? Well, if you come here, top right, you have serial plotter. Next to it, you have serial monitor. That's the one we want. Click on serial monitor. Make sure here the baud rate is actually 9600. And you can see it's actually printing hello, 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 hello. And I can highlight it and you can see it keeps populating. So it's constantly printing hello. Now this is very useful when you want to debug something. Now, let's say we want to use a pin as an input, because we used the pin as an output before, right? Now let's use one as an input as well. So let's say pin mode 7, but because we know what variables are now, we'll say in input underscore pin is equal to 8. You can't have spaces in pin names. It has to be one continuous string. So we'll say input underscore pin is an input pull up. What is it? Why is that not just like input? Because I want the value to always be at 5 volts. So always be true, 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 true. Always be 1, 1, 1, because digital pins can only be 1 or 0. I want it to always be 1 and only be 0 when triggered. So initialize pin 8 as not output input pull up. That's because the pin. I'll spend more video what floating pins are. I think it will make more sense when we use analog pins. But for now, just learn it this way. Input pull up is always high. It only goes low when it's connected to ground. So I'm going to make use of loops here. There's plenty of new information. I hope it's not too overwhelming. But an if loop is something, is essentially a loop that says, you write if and then you open brackets and you say, whatever is in there, if it's true, it will run whatever we write here. If it's false, it won't run it. So let's say if I say x is equal to 1 and x is actually 1, it will actually run everything here. But what I want to do before that, I'll get rid of it so it's not too confusing with the whole thing. We have an input pin, right? I want to turn on the input pin only, sorry, I want to turn on the LED only when the input pin is triggered. Now, how do I do that? So first, I'll create another variable. I'll say integer. I could have created a boolean, but I'll create an integer because I don't want this one to push too much information in your way. But we'll get there eventually. So we say, let's say value, right? Value is equal to, now we don't digital write, what do we do? The digital read. Which pin is it? 8. Yes, but we write it as input pin. And read pin 8. Now how do we know what's the value of pin 8? This is where we use serial print value. Because this is a dynamic variable. Variables you don't need to write into double inverted commas, only fixed strings, so things that will not change. So serial print, and this should print a constant value. So I'll upload the sketch now. And this is now uploaded, right? And you can see it's always printing 1. But if you look at the screen here, I'll get rid of these wires, so I don't see much point of having there. on for now. I will say I'll connect pin A and I'll connect this to ground. You should get the right pin. And you see, as soon as I connect, it turns to 0. And if I let go, it's 1 again. 0, 1. Okay, now that's awesome. Now, where does our if loop come into? So going back to the code, we say if value is equal to, if it's in a if condition, if you're asking a question, you have to use double is equal to, because you're not saying it is, you're asking, is it really? So you say if.
Yeah. So we say if value is equal to 0, which that would mean your input pin is triggered. And that's an input pin that we're just turning into ground to keep things simple right now, so you don't have to invest in too much hardware. Granted, it's not too expensive, but still. But if it's an input pin right now that you just connect with a jumper wire, tomorrow it can be a button, it can be a switch, it can be a switch that you turn on here and turns on another light that's from another part of the world. Well, that's involving more IoT, which we'll get there, but we have to start small, unfortunately. So if value is 0, so if pin is 3, what do we want to do now? We want to digital write LED high. And now, fun part, else, the else part is run if this is not true. So if it's not true, what do we want to do? Digital write LED low. So just to clarify what we're expecting, when I'm touching this jumper wire to 0 or to ground, it will turn on the LED here. And then when I remove it, because that just keeps looping, in one cycle we do that, the next cycle it comes, it will check. If this is still connected, which means if that value is reading 0, then it will come here, it will still keep it high. But in the next cycle, let's say it comes here and I remove it, what happens? It will come, it will say this to read, value will actually be 1. And when value is 1, it won't come here anymore. It would actually go here and turn off the LED. So let's flash the code and see how that goes for us. Well, in order to see an LED, it's very important to wire it. And we did sort of remove it. So, well, I removed it, sorry. So I'll quickly wire it again, where negative goes to ground and positive will go to pin number 9. Okay, so now I've already flashed the code. If I touch this to ground, it goes high. But if I remove it, and remember how we said the breadboard row is all connected, so if I touch it to the ground, it lights up. If I let go, it doesn't. And notice how the reading on the serial monitor is also changing. Now, this is a very basic understanding, but yeah, from here onwards, we're trying to make things a bit more complicated. And I also want to look at different communication protocols such as I2C, and not just from MCU to MCU. I also want to interface more sensors and look at other things, GSM, radio waves, so radio frequency, comms, LoRa, IoT, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. I also want to look at all these things moving forward, but it's very important for us to have a core foundation. And let me know if this video helped you. I really hope it's not too much information to absorb at once. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please leave a comment and subscribe. It really helps. And I'll see you guys in the next one.